and make it happen. All right. So, and actually, before I forget, let me not be rude. I want to say hi to Jay Wilson and Nakia. Nakia's always here. I love Nakia. Girl, you are the best. Alicia and Daryl and I know Dual Victory's in there as well. Dual's always around. She's excellent. Got to give a shout out to the strong Black women that hold it down for us. And everybody, there are a few of you watching from Instagram. Can we talk about Tamia Horsford murder case being swept under the rug? I don't know much about it. And today we're not talking about anything other than financial topics, but if there's something that you think we should know, please send it over. I can definitely make sure that the message gets out to the public. All right, so let me play some of this clip for you guys so you can kind of hear it. I'm not gonna do the video because I gotten in too much trouble with YouTube for sharing. Literally, my channel got banned for 3 months because I shared, like, I think 20 seconds of a clip. So they beat me into submission. So I'm not gonna mess with that no more. Let me go ahead and just play this. This is a debate apparently between Steve Harvey and Monique, the actress. I have not heard the whole thing, but from what I've heard, there are some interesting Black economic implications here. When you're Black, you got to think about economics a little bit differently, but you have to think about economics. You've got to think about, powernomics sorts of concepts if you ever want to have real power. And anyway, without further ado, let me go ahead and play some of this. So you got, hopefully you guys can hear it when I play it. Here we go.
Baby, he be saying it like I'm a problem.
Okay, why is it? Okay, why? There we go.
Oh, you have been a problem.
Well, Steve, okay.
What was it? Let's go.
Let's go.
You started getting labeled as difficult.
Yes.
Why do you believe that happened? And do you see that changing, and why?
I got labeled as difficult, my husband and my husband is Sydney, who happens to be my manager. We got labeled as difficult because I said one word, and that was no. Now, I said no to some very powerful people. I said no to Oprah Winfrey. I said no to Tyler Perry. I said no to Lee Daniels, and I said no to Lionsgate. And the difficulty came in when people that look like me, like Oprah, Tyler, Lee Daniels, and I gotta put my brother Steve on the list. Y'all knew I was not wrong. Each one of you said to me, Monique, you're not wrong. And when I heard you go on the air and you said, my sister done burned too many bridges and there's nothing I can do for her now. Steve, do you know how hurt I was?
Simone, now let me give you this. Because you and I had this conversation, I thought you went about it wrong. See, I felt that you had done yourself a disservice by the way you chose to go about it.
Tell me how I went about it.
I was cool with you, with your deal with Netflix. I was cool with you. The two problems that we had, number one, the boycott of Netflix, we never gave people a point of action. Okay, if we're gonna boycott, are we gonna not get subscriptions? Are we gonna turn it off? Or are we gonna go down there and get signs? The second point, what was coming to me was, this problem that you had in Netflix is rich people problems. Because they looking at us going, you talking about you didn't get millions. Be cool.
But when you say, Mo, it's the way you went about it. And I want to explain that, and I thank you for saying that. Inequality is devastating, and it's extreme. And when people said, Monique, do you think calling a boycott was extreme? You're damn right. But isn't inequality extreme? So we've got to get to a place where we're unafraid to say it out loud. Okay. What I would have loved, what I would have appreciated from my brother was had you picked up the phone before you went on the air and said, Monique, you've burned too many bridges and there's nothing I can do. See, I would have appreciated had my brother called me up and said, baby, let's talk. Because you doing that was a part of me being difficult.
Now, before that though.
Yes, baby.
Remember the moment on stage?
Oh, yes.
See, now that
was
right
a wonderful moment.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, my goodness.
No, it wasn't.
That was one of those moments.
See, no, it wasn't.
That Richard Pryor whispered in my ear and said, say it. You say it.
Richard
because
Pryor did not tell you to say that.
Yes, he did. Oh, baby. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I do not regret, as I said on the Steve Harvey show, I do not regret one moment of that night on that stage.
No, in case you don't know, Mo told Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lee Daniels to suck her private parts.
Not my private parts.
Well, you said if I had one,
yeah,
I want them three to suck my private parts.
Yeah.
It wasn't private parts on stage. So now, then I went, oh, I quit breathing. I quit breathing for you.
I didn't.
What happened?
Okay, so let's pause it for a second. If you just got here, we're starting the Black Wealth conversation off by discussing this this whole thing between Mo'nique and Steve Harvey and this interesting debate that they had. They're talking about race in a very open way. The first thought that went through my mind when I saw this debate go down was I said, you have to give Steve Harvey credit for inviting Mo'nique on to even talk about that issue, right? I mean, the fact that he even lent his platform to her to come in and, knowing, that she's blackballed by a lot of people, knowing that a lot of people won't work with her for various reasons. That says that Steve, on some level, has some commitment to trying to find a resolution to the issue, right? Now, does that mean that that his approach is the one that we agree with? No, it doesn't. But I think that is how you know the difference between somebody who's a pure enemy versus somebody who's at least trying to be an ally. A pure enemy is somebody who just undermines you, destroys everything you're trying to do, sabotages you in every turn, wants to see you go down. Somebody who wants to be an ally is somebody who says, I don't want to do it that way. I don't think that approach is the right approach. I can't do that myself, but I'll help you as much as I can, right? So to that extent, I think that is where Steve Harvey deserves some seat at the table. Even if you look at, say, a guy like him or Stephen A. Smith, who also just says things that infuriate people. He infuriates me at least once every couple of months. At least they care enough to share their opinion. At least they care enough to piss us off, right? Because a lot of people don't even care at all. A lot of people say, look, I don't engage with black folks. I'm not engaging in none of that all that we shall overcome crap. I just want to sit over here and enjoy my wealth and not even be connected to it. Because there are lots of very silent black multimillionaires and black billionaires who won't even open their mouth and talk about any of it because they just think the whole conversation is crazy. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing I'll share, just in terms of honest thoughts, I was literally taking notes as we went along. Is Monique's husband. Monique's husband is notoriously he's known for being very difficult. He's a guy that he's a little bit like Wendy Williams' husband. If you know anything about Wendy Williams' husband, he has a reputation for being kind of like in there out front, kind of not going to the point of representing the interests of his wife, but really to being a little bit of an ass, a little bit of a jerk to the point where that undermines her ability to get opportunities. And so that's something that I've just seen in too many situations or heard in too many, from too many conversations I've had with people, to the point where I think that from a business standpoint, there's room for Monique to learn in terms of how to do business with people. And again, this is a business lesson. This is not just us gossiping about what Mo'nique and Steve Harvey said. This is real life stuff. This is real life stuff. And I will tell you this, if you go into business and if you're going into business, you got to learn how to work with other people. You have to know how to work with other people. And working with other people means doing all you can to be helpful and humble as much as possible. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you, but if you are a person who is full of yourself and says, well, I am so important that you need to kiss my ass every step of the way, they won't tell you. And I told my daughters this. I said, people that blackball you, they don't come up and announce. They don't write you a letter and say, we're formally blackballing you. They whisper to other people when somebody says, I was thinking about hiring so-and-so for this new big project I got going on. What was that like for you? And the person, they may not say a whole lot. They'll just be like, do not do it, man. Do not do it. Right. And you won't even know these conversations are happening. You won't even know these things are happening. Because I told you guys, I was talking to you guys about, my whole experience dealing with Angela Rye and who I just spoke with down in Birmingham. And I'm not going to talk too much about it. You guys can, see me talk about it on Instagram or whatever. But, that to me was an example where I thought, wow, I think that she overestimates how important she is to the point where she thinks she can just crap all over the people that that are, that are paying her bills, right? And the thing is that when you have an attitude where you're not respectful toward others, eventually that does precede you. That does cause you problems later on because people do talk, right? So I think that for Monique, that's a real legitimate issue that she has. I think that Monique could still be a strong, righteous Black woman, but I think that the whole bulldog approach that her husband takes is not the right approach. The other thing, the next thing, and this is, they're going to dig into this a little bit, I think, indirectly as the debate goes on, is the fact that, when you have two Black people, sort of talking about injustice, Monique used the words, inequality is devastating and extreme. Inequality is devastating and extreme. And so she's speaking, to the same language that many of us have heard since we were little, right? It's hard out here being Black. The playing field is not level. It sucks to be us. They don't give us any opportunities, and that's true, right? We know that's true. The thing that I think that we're missing is, is that we don't really train ourselves and each other on how to play this game, how to play chess instead of checkers. We're playing checkers and we're complaining about the fact that the game is rigged, when the reality is that we're not thinking about, well, who owns the chess pieces? Who owns the chess board? Who owns the table that the chess game is even being played on? And so perhaps rather than trying to win a rigged game that you can't even play that well, I'm a believer that the next level of economic thinking for the next generation should be one where you say, how do I just get out of this game and play a different game altogether? That's why I've told all of you who are in the Black Business School, I've told you that I believe if anybody who wants to really build economically strong children and have the kinds of conversations in your family that you need to have to generate power, because the power is out there and it's available for you if you plan for it. You got to plan for it. Don't happen overnight. It ain't like getting a record deal. It doesn't happen quickly. Wealth is built slowly over time. Go read the book, How the Jews Invented Hollywood. It's called An Empire of Their Own, How the Jews Invented Hollywood. The Jews as a community, they quit playing the whole integration game for the most part. They tried that game. That game didn't work. For us, the door's a little creaky. Maybe the door doesn't open very wide. It lets one of us in and leaves the other 400 people out. For them, the door was shut. The door was shut for them. It was shut more for us, but it was also shut for them. Like literally, there were schools that would say, do not bring your Jewish child to this school. So you know what they did? They went and they built a school. There were businesses that said, we will not do business with a Jewish person. So you know what they did? They built their own businesses and supported them. There were companies that said, we will not hire a Jew. So they had no choice but to build an industry of their own. So what they did was they used Hollywood as a power play, where they built the industry from the ground up. It was a 40, 50, 100-year project. But now what you're seeing is you're seeing two Negroes sitting in the middle of a gigantic castle built over the last 100 years by the Jewish community, saying, I don't know how to navigate this castle, and I don't understand why certain rooms are locked, right? Every time I knock on the door, they don't let me in. Well, that's because you're thinking about trying to get in the room, and you're not thinking about how to build a castle. You see, climbing the ladder is not as empowering as thinking about how ladders are built. Getting a seat at the table doesn't give you nearly as much as you get by building a table. Even if you build a crappy table, that is better than getting one seat at a beautiful table, because that crappy table you built, as you add seats to that table, you get to decide who sits at that table. So the reason that, many of us talk about this, I'm sure Steve Harvey and Monique would agree on this. The reason the Jewish community isn't having Mo'nique, Steve Harvey conversations is partly because they're not trying to fight for a seat at the table, because they're like, we own the whole goddamn table. We own every single seat at the table. And the only thing to fight about is, which Negro are we going to give a seat to? We're going to give one seat out of 800 seats to a Black person. Which Black person do we like? And if we don't like them, then we're going to kick them out. And they're not going to give that seat to Monique, because Monique is not kissing enough ass. Okay, so let's keep going. Let me go. Let me keep replaying the video so we can kind of hear this. I hope you guys can hear this okay. So there's a little bit more. There's about 7 more minutes. I went through the first 3.5 minutes, but I had to stop because there were too many thoughts that popped up in this discussion. Because remember, every conversation about Black oppression is typically an economic conversation. Most conversations about Black oppression, at least 70% of the time, are economic conversations, meaning that if you have resources and you intelligently allocate resources to solve that problem, you can solve that problem. There are very few problems that a Black man has in his day-to-day life that a billionaire could not solve, that a conscientious, intelligent billionaire could not solve. Are we in agreement with that? Do you understand what I'm saying with that? I'm not saying money is everything. I'm not saying money will buy you happiness. What I'm saying is that much of our unhappiness comes from the fact that we don't have access to resources and power. Because I'll tell you, think about it. Imagine if you had $1 million in the bank, you could quit your job tomorrow. How would that change your life right now? How would that change how you talk? How would that change? Some of y'all, it would change your profile pic on Facebook. Some of it would change what you did on a day-to-day basis. Some of you would feel a lot less stress, right? It would change everything, right? So let's keep going. Let me play this of this part of the clip. Here we go.
What happened to you, Mo, was when you made that statement, the narrative got flipped. It wasn't about Netflix no more. It wasn't about Netflix no more. The attention was all off of where we needed to go. Huh?
That was before Netflix.
So good. So now when you bring up Netflix, it doesn't get no win, but you done just said this to these 3 people. And these 3 people,
yes,
not because they're powerful, but because of who they've come. And what happens is, I told you, we can't cure darkness with more darkness.
What we can do is cure it with comedy. And what I'm not going to do, Steve, I'm never, ever going to waver from my comedy show on that stage. That's my gift, and that's my freedom. And what happens is when you allow people to start taking your freedom and your gift and making it become what makes them comfortable, we then lose. When you called me with the morning show on the phone, I said to you, Steve, I'm this. And y'all know I did nothing wrong. Y'all know my husband did nothing wrong. But none of y'all in real time, was strong enough to go publicly and say, we can't throw our sister under the bus.
Because Mo, listen to me. We fighting 2 wars here.
What war?
There's 2 wars. It's what your issue is, and it's what the perception of the issue is, and the narrative has changed.
See, I'm hearing what you're saying, baby, and I agree with it when the narrative changes. But if all of y'all said, this is the only issue I have with it, baby, when all of y'all said privately, to include Oprah, all of y'all said privately, I've done nothing wrong.
When you tell the truth, you have to deal with the repercussions of the truth. We Black out here. We can't come out here and do it any kind of way we want to. Listen to me. Your husband can't be the Sydney that he really is out here.
Let me tell you something.
That flexing, we got to flex a different way. We out here in a game. This the money game. This ain't the Black man's game. This ain't the white man's game. This is the money game.
But
we in the money game. And you cannot sacrifice yourself. The best thing you can do for poor people is not be one of them. You cannot help them.
We're in the money game, but let me tell you what the game is before the money game. Before the money game, it's called the integrity game. And we've lost the integrity worrying about the money.
But Mo,
wait a minute.
If I crumble, my children crumble, my grandchildren crumble. I cannot, for the sake of my integrity, stand up here and let everybody that's counting on me crumble so I can make a statement. There are ways to win the war in a different way. We got more right after this.
Okay, so yeah, that was an interesting part of the debate. You know, when Steve kind of got a little bit animated in this part, where he's like, you know, we Black out here, we Black out here. He sounded a little bit like a character in the movie Roots. He sounded a little bit like he's warning another slave not to make Massa mad. And I'm in complete agreement with that. I told you, I mean, Steve is not the most racially bold person that you're going to find, right? Now, here's the thing about that. I want to look at this in a nuanced way. I want you to try for a second to not imagine this as Steve Harvey, but imagine this as your old uncle, you know, who's trying to give you advice to protect you against from yourself, because he thinks that you're speaking too much or you're taking too many chances. I can see where in his statement, he was trying to say one thing, but it came out like something else, right? I think it came out like he's telling Monique, you know, not to flex because we Black out here, you know, which means sit there, be quiet, and bow your head and hope the master doesn't beat you up. He didn't say don't flex. He said flex in a different way, right? Now, I mean, in fairness to him, he did say flex in a different way. And then when he made the point about integrity, he said, I cannot, for the sake of my integrity, let all the people behind me crumble. I think the word integrity was the wrong word because integrity is something that you want to keep no matter what. I think a better word that he probably would use if he can make that statement again would be a word like pride or a word like ego, right? Because while you can certainly say that Steve is wrong when you say I can't, trade my integrity for money, right? Or whatever, I'll let go of my integrity to make more money. And integrity is a subjective term, right? What's integrity for one thing is one person is a non-issue for another. I think that we can talk about pride and ego in the sense that, you can imagine somebody who throws away good opportunities because they're easily triggered or they're sensitive to something, like, oh, he called me a nigga, so I had to quit that $1 million job, right? If you tell me that you walked away from $1 million opportunity because a white man called you a nigger, that tells me that there's something going on where you still care what these people think about you, which means that maybe in the money game, you're not so qualified to play that game. Because in the game of money and business, this is going back to the business conversation here. In the world of money and business, people will use any weakness you have to undermine you, outsmart you, or manipulate you. They will. So if they know that they can trigger you by making a racist joke to get you off of your game, to get you to not focus, so they can take your $1 million, they'll do that. And what I have noticed when I watch people, let me tell you, I've watched really successful people, I'm talking world famous, millions of dollars in the bank, stuff like that. And they tend to think differently from everybody else. Most of the really successful high level people that I know who've really done amazing things, they don't give a damn what you think about them as long as they winning. They're like, you call me a nigga, I'm gonna call you a nigga too. And I'm still gonna show up and get my money, right? I'm not gonna let you intimidate me out of getting what I came to get. And so I think that when we talk about letting things go for our integrity, one thing I can say that does hurt us economically when it comes to business is that we spend a whole lot of time as Black people being real worried about what white people think about us. So if I'm white, if I'm a racist white man and you're a Black person, I'm trying to get you out of the business deal. Like, I just don't want you even here at the table. You got a seat at the table, I got a seat at the table, but I want to have all the seats at the table. Then maybe what I do is I go get a noose and put a noose on your desk and make you feel intimidated and hurt your feelings, and then watch you walk away from the table, and then I get to control the whole table for myself, right? So I'm gonna say that the way Steve said it came out wrong. I don't think that what Steve said is automatically wrong, especially the second point. The second point, this is really important too, that you really want to process this part. What he was saying in the end was, I cannot, for the sake of my integrity, let all the people who depend on me crumble. That's a statement a lot of us as Black people may not understand, because most of us are not business owners. Most of us, we're raised in families where I'm one person and I got one job, right? One job, I go to work, I get that money and I pay my bills, and that's it, right? But if you think about this, most of us actually agree with that statement. Let me explain why. Imagine if you are Joe Blow or you're a single mom and you work at the post office, and somebody says, hey, we're gonna start the revolution today. If you got integrity, you're gonna be down with the revolution, right? And you're like, yeah, I'm down, I got integrity. Like, okay, we're gonna start the revolution at your job. We're gonna cuss out your boss and call him a dirty cracker and tell him about himself. And you'd be like, well, wait, why we got to start at my job? We ain't got to go to my job. Wait, can we start so? No, we're gonna go to your job. Do you got integrity or not? Yeah, I got integrity. Well, then let's go to your job and let's get you fired so that you can be free. So to start the revolution. Most of us ain't gonna do it. Most of us are gonna say, yeah, I'm kind of down, but damn, I didn't know I had to lose a job because we could get you fired. That would be okay, but I didn't want to get fired, right? And now if you want to understand what it's like being a business owner, take that pressure of the single mom with 3 kids she's got to feed and multiply it by about 50, right? If you are a business owner and you have dozens of people depending on you, you know, I'm not even a big business owner. I have a business, it's technically a small business, but it's big enough that a lot of people depend on me, where every month I hear about 20 stories, I kid you not, 20 stories about people who are about to get evicted, can't make the rent, need to borrow money because the car broke down, just all kinds of stuff. So when I'm going out here in the world and I'm really ready, like Boyce is good, right? Like Boyce can say, fuck all of y'all, and he's still going to have a place to live because, you know, the house is mostly paid for, right? And we got food in the fridge. So Boyce is going to be good no matter what comes out of Boyce's mouth, right? But then when Boyce wants to go and give somebody the finger and cuss them out and say, all y'all can just go to hell, he starts thinking, man, shoot, I don't really want to do this, but if I have this extra money, I can help this person, this person, this person, that, or if I do this and I lose this opportunity over here where this 20,000 is coming in, that means I'm gonna have to fire this person, and that person, they got 2 kids, and this person is struggling a lot, right? You're thinking about all of this. You're thinking about this, and this is something that's real. Like this is not me defending Monique or Steve Harvey. I think both of them have issues, and both of them are great in one light. Both of them have issues in the other. We can talk about those issues, but we're talking about business here. But the reality of business is that when you, like that saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Everybody wants to wear the crown, but I'm here to tell you, when you start wearing that crown, your head will get heavy. And a lot of people who are very quick to tell you what you woulda, coulda, shoulda did with that $2 million contract are people who've never had to make $1 million decision based on whether they want to take a stand on that particular issue or let that one slide, right? Right. So it doesn't mean you can't pick battles, right? The reason that you want power is so you can fight battles and fight them in a more effective way. So you can, as Steve was saying, flex. You know, you can flex and go out here and really fight the power and do some things at a high level, right? But when you are running, when you have an entire armada with tanks and ships and everything else, the general of an armada cannot just make offhand emotional decisions and be like, oh, I just decided to cuss somebody out and it's going to affect 3,000 other people. Right. So that's what I think Steve is saying, is Steve is talking about not just all the employees he has, he's talking about his children and his grandchildren. And he's like, maybe in the back of his mind, he's thinking, sheesh, I don't want to even do this corny Family Feud thing. But then he's thinking, but if I don't do it, that's $20 million less per year that I can leave to my children and grandchildren so they can be free. So a lot of times, you know, younger people that have a lot of freedom financially usually have that freedom because somebody else gave up freedom for them to have that. Like all of us right now are talking about what, you know, how we would cuss a white man out and say this to a white man, that to a white man. We get to do all of that because we had ancestors who couldn't do that, who didn't do that, who had to stay alive, right? So I think that, you know, it doesn't mean that Steve is right or wrong. It just means that there are different ways to kind of look at this. So as all of you become business owners, just know that that the dynamics change as you change how you play the economic game. So I would say at the very least, the most fundamental truism of this conversation between Steve and Monique is that, you know, if we have a dream for the community for the future, the dream is that hopefully one day we won't have to have 2 of our most celebrated Black people arguing and whispering like 2 slaves on a plantation, talking about, is you Black out here? You can't do, you Black out here. Well, at what point does Steve Harvey get to the point, right, where he doesn't have to worry about being Black? He doesn't have to worry about being himself. You know, it's a matter of how you think about the process, right? So ownership is the long-term power play. Conversations about building have to be a must in our families. All of our children, every single Black child in this country should learn the basics of starting a business by the age of 12. We should be ashamed that our children are better at football and basketball and dancing and cheerleading than they are at starting businesses and making investments and buying real estate. It does not mean that you can't be the best dancers and basketball players in the world. That's fine, but you do that in your spare time. You don't do that in your main time. So when you're on social media and you notice, pay attention to what you see on social media. You notice that we tend to just lead the world in dancing videos. We are always dancing, and it's okay for Black kids to dance. Everybody can dance, but why are we not leading the world in something that is going to actually empower us? Because we're not going to be empowered by a bunch of dance moves. All right, so let me hit the Q&A. I'm going to answer some of your questions. I see Michael Hancock has a question. He says, what is the name of the health insurance company that you suggested before? I go to theblackinsurancenetwork.com. That's theblackinsurancenetwork.com. That's run by Yolanda Spivey. It's called Michael Whitney and Associates. That's the name of the company, and they do all of my insurance. And so if you ever quit your job, don't like not quit your job because of insurance, because you can buy insurance. I buy insurance, I pay for it, and I go to the doctor whenever I want, so it's not a big deal. Let me see here. Oh, by the way, okay, so somebody's asking about customer service. If you have any questions about any classes that you're either in or thinking about taking in the Black Business School, we have the whole Black Money sequence. It starts with the power of money all the way up through how to invest in the stock market, how to start your own business, all these things. We can fill all your needs educationally. So feel free to email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. They can answer all your questions and get you started. And I'm just going to tell you, if your money's tight and your budget, doesn't fit, or you don't have the money to go ahead and make the investment to take a class now, just tell them about your financial hardship, and I've given them permission to make whatever adjustments necessary. I just want to make sure you guys get what you need. So feel free to email support@theblackbusinessschool.com because it's very important that we get financial education. Let's see. Silver Rain says, did Steve just tell us that we can't fight to be equal, that we have to recognize that we are Black, like it means something? I can't believe my ears. Well, I think that here's my theory. I'm gonna tell you like this. I think, Silver Rain, where my view has evolved over time is that I don't believe that we're ever going to be equal in a white man's system. I just don't. I just don't. I believe that the idea of equality is an idealistic myth built by white liberal social engineering to make us think that these utopias are possible. And what does that mean? What it means is that, I believe in human nature. And I just don't believe that any man is ever going to invite another man in his house and make him the king of his castle. I believe that any man, or any woman for that matter, who wants to be the king or the queen of a castle should learn how to build a castle. So for the Black man, especially in America, especially all y'all got sons and stuff, the worst thing you can do to your son is send him out into the world and subject him to believing that his success or his failure will depend on whether or not a white man decides to give him an opportunity. It does not mean that he has to grow up hating white people. It just means he needs to grow up knowing how to compete with white people. And we're not trained to compete if you're already entering into the system that is built for your subjugation and for your exploitation. So if I have children and I'm training my children on how to be as successful as possible, I don't really care a lot about things like, whether you get a college degree or not. Not that those things don't matter. That just doesn't matter much to me. I have a lot of degrees, and they help. They make you smarter and stuff, but there's other ways to be smart. I'd rather them know how to create an institution or to create their own job if that job's not available. So if they're looking for their dream job, I would tell them to stop looking for the dream job and start looking for a book to teach you how to create a dream job. That's the best way for a Black person to fulfill a dream, is to create the dream themselves. Let's see here. Okay, so Silver Rain, you made a lot of comments in here. Okay, so let's see. James says, Dr. Boyce, if you can see Steve Harvey's point of view, then wouldn't it be the same as Ray Lewis's point of view on Kaepernick? I think that well, here's what I will say. I don't think that there's anything sacrilegious about saying that maybe Steve Harvey has a point sometimes, or maybe Ray Lewis has a point sometimes, or Stephen A. Smith has a point sometimes. You know, I'm not going to say that those guys are wrong 100% of the time. I'm just going to say that when I look at a Ray Lewis, I don't always get his point of view, but I understand maybe why he believes what he believes, right? There are many, many ways to try to skin the same cat. And so, I think that we should probably get away from sort of looking at it as right and wrong and good and bad and all this other stuff, and look at it as, okay, I agree more with you than I agree with you. It's like that whole Democrat Republican nonsense they expect us to get caught up in, where all the liberals think that liberal ideas are always right and that all conservative ideas are wrong, and the conservatives believe the same thing. So then they never talk and they never learn from each other. So they all sit there in their little silos and the country goes backward. I think the most productive conversations are when the liberals and conservatives talk to each other and you take the best ideas off both tables. So, you know, Ray Lewis, you know, I guess he has a perspective. It's not my perspective most of the time, but I'm not, if I was to sit and talk to Ray Lewis, I wouldn't say everything that comes out of your mouth is always wrong and you're always a complete idiot, because I just don't believe that. I don't see things in black and white like that. Let's see here. Let's see. Just look at how her people throw her out and step on her publicly. Well, you know, I will agree with you, Silver Rain. I think that, and by the way, if you guys are in here and you have questions, put your questions in the Q&A section and I'll see your question. I'll be able to answer it. Yeah, I think that when you talk about Oprah and Tyler Perry and all the people Monique had an issue with, these are not people who are necessarily always wrong or always bad. These are just people that have a different political ideology than she does. So for Monique to try to fit in with those people is a lot like me trying to hang out with, you know, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, right? I don't think Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are bad people. I just know that I'm going to be the big mouth of the group, and I'm going to be the guy that they're going to want to avoid and stay away from. And I'm going to be annoyed with how they act in front of white people, right? But I believe behind closed doors, I think that we would understand each other and agree with each other. And so I think maybe if you go back to, you know, the good cop, bad cop theory, or to Malcolm Martin kind of thing, where Malcolm and Martin eventually realized that they could actually help each other. Maybe that's what we want to look for. It's something where one person says, okay, I'll take this approach, and somebody else says, I'll take that approach. Because I can tell you, when I was at Syracuse University, I was known for being pretty radical back then. I was the big mouth troublemaking professor. You know, they wanted to see me gone or see me dead. They did not like me when I was at Syracuse. And there was a black woman there who I thought had more favor with white folks than I did. And we didn't talk for years. We never talked because she made it clear that she didn't want to be associated with me. But that was until those white folks like did to her what they were trying to do to me. And what happened was when she finally came and told me what they were doing to her, I didn't reject her. I didn't say, oh, go on, you old sellout, get out of my face. I helped her. helped her get her promotion. She helped me in certain ways, and we helped each other. We just had different approaches and different skill sets and strategies. And so I think that, you know, that's the goal, right? I think as Black people, I think that if we can try our best to empathize on some level with other points of view, then you can find common ground. But sometimes it is very difficult. But at some point, you got to work together with somebody. And the ability to work together with somebody doesn't mean that you always have to agree 100% on every single topic. Because if that's your criteria, then you'll never be able to work with anyone. In fact, most of the reason that Black people, that we don't have a lot of strong businesses in our community is for the same reason we don't have a lot of strong families in our community. Look at the mentality that you see on social media from Black folks. Here's a post. I'm gonna give you an example of a meme that will probably get 10,000 likes. If I don't think you good for me, then I'm gonna cut you off, or I'm quick to cut you off, or I'm quick to cut like Cardi B said, I'm quick to cut a nigga off, so don't get comfortable, right? Like people like that. People relate to that. Like, you piss me off, I'm gonna cut you off, right? We have one disagreement, I'm cutting you off, I'm not talking to you forever. And we take pride in that. Like, we're proud to say that if I vote for Barack Obama and you're a Trump supporter or whatever, I'm gonna cut you off and I don't want to even be your friend ever again. And the reason that that's a problem is that if you look at how global economics is played all around the world, global economics is not a solo sport. Global economics is a team sport. It's a team sport where you have to be gang affiliated. You have to have a team. If you ain't got a team, it's very difficult to win the global economic game, right? So a lot of times the reason we don't see business empires being built in the Black community is because there's not a lot of conversation, I believe, in a lot of our families about how we can work together to achieve something as a collective, right? There's some conversation about it, but not as much as there should be. Like you look at a typical family, right? You might have 4 strong, healthy adults all in the same family. One's a nurse, one's a carpenter, one's a doctor, one's an engineer. And all 4 of them never once think, well, why don't we get together and form some business where we can all bring our skills to the same table and support each other. Instead, everybody goes their own separate way. Everybody splits up and disperses. The engineer goes to work for his white man. The nurse goes and works for her white man, right? The carpenter, he goes out and works for whoever he works for, right? And there's not much of a discussion to say, how do we bring this back home? How do we bring the energy inward and make it into something strong and concrete? Instead, the momentum is typically outward. It's, and if you think about it, any energy that's dispersed is going to be weakened. It's not going to be able to form anything solid. The difference between a solid and a gas and a liquid is pretty much based on how closely together the molecules are, right? If the molecules are spread out and going in different directions, then you have a gas. Gas is very weak. You can, like this air, you can just kind of go through a gas. It's not a big deal. A liquid, the molecules are a little bit closer together, so you kind of feel it, but a liquid ain't never gonna stop you. Like if you're walking down the street and it starts raining, the rain cannot stop you from walking down the street. But a solid is where the molecules have all come together and they all smack together and created something where you can't forge a gap between any of them, and that's how they become solid like wood or concrete. So if I'm walking down the street and you put a bunch of non-poisonous gas in the air or a bunch of smoke in the air, I might wave it out of the way, but it's going to be easy to go through the smoke, right? Or if you if you make it rain and put a rainstorm down on me, and it's it's not a tornado but just heavy rain, I can get through the heavy rain, right? But if you roll a big concrete boulder at me, I can't walk through that. I can't walk through concrete, right? So for Black people in our families, you have to figure out, how can I have a concrete family as opposed to having, a puffy family, a family where everything just kind of poof, everybody goes in their own direction, everybody kind of does their own thing, right? So, the other thing too about that, about sticking together, really comes down to these conversations we often have about, keeping a code. Like, what does it mean to have a code, right? I believe your family should kind of know what that means. Like, what does a code mean? A code means maybe that if we have a disagreement, the Nation of Islam they have a lot of strong codes, but one code that they have that I think is excellent that you should pay attention to is they pretty much agree that if one brother has a problem with another brother, you talk to him. You call him up and you say, hey, brother, I heard that you feel this way about me, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear on how you feel. And then you talk it out and you work it out and you figure it out so you can maintain the solidity, if you will, of the institution. You maintain the relationship by talking it out, right? But how many times have you seen somebody, hear that somebody says something about them, and they don't even know what the person meant. They don't even know what was actually said. They just heard somebody's interpretation of a conversation that allegedly happened, and they say, oh, well, you ain't messing with me. Well, I ain't messing with you either. And next thing you know, the two people don't even talk. And you say, well, why didn't you pick up the phone and call each other? Well, why didn't you call them? I ain't calling that man. I can, whatever, right? And that's what we do. That's kind of how we tend to approach our disagreements. We have very, I'd say challenged, some would even say poor conflict resolution skills, because we're easily triggered and we easily trigger each other. And so if you look at the reason that a lot of businesses aren't built, it's for the same reasons that you don't see a lot of families built. I can't tell you how many times you know, I've seen, and you've seen it too, where two people get together, they're madly in love, they start having sex, next thing you know, somebody's pregnant, and then they're broken up before the baby's even born. And I'm like, what happened? I thought y'all were deeply in love. Well, no, but let me tell you about that son of a blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, but isn't that the guy that you told me that you were madly in love with, that you would die for 6 months ago? Now he's a motherfucker? Like, I'm confused right now, right? Well, you know, again, that comes from poor conflict resolution skills, right? So what I would encourage you to understand is this, that if you want to learn how to build business, you got to think about it in the same way you would think about building family or any sort of relationship. You must, you know, maybe read some books about it, like literally read books on how to resolve conflicts. You have to be committed to keeping the family together, even when you just want to cut somebody off. You know, so when you hear a Cardi B lyric, like quick to cut a nigga off, so don't get comfortable, just understand that's not productive thinking. That is destructive thinking. That destroys relationships. Okay, so anyway, let me hop back in and look at some of your questions. Okay, Mr. Jameson says, should Mo learn that her fight isn't a fight for everyone and that she has to understand that not everything permissible is beneficial? I think that, yeah, I think that when you have a fight, you know, you should give everyone the right to decide if they want to participate in your fight. You know, I think that Monique, honestly, I'm not a big fan of Monique. I mean, son of Monique, Steve Harvey or Tyler Perry or Oprah. You know, I kind of think that they, I put it this way, when it comes to building the future for Black people, I don't see those as individuals who are really doing that, right? I think that the future that I'm envisioning is going to be built by some of your children and grandchildren. There, you know, maybe you got some grandchild that's watching this video in the year 2052, and they're going to go build some multi-billion-dollar company because of it, and I won't know anything about it because I'll be either old and senile or dead. And so that's what I envision in terms of who the builders are. The builders in this community are the people with mindsets like Marcus Garvey or A.G. Gaston. Those are going to be the ones. A.G. Gaston, you know, from Alabama, who built, I think he was worth over $100 million in the 1940s and 1950s. He went to the 10th grade, and he just learned basic ideas behind business. He was actually, his mother took him with her when she went to go work for a Jewish family. So as a 13-year-old, he kind of watched how Jews make their money. So he wasn't really into this whole, like, I'm gonna get a job and just pay some rent mindset. He was in an owner's mindset at a very early age, and that's how he became very, very wealthy. So what is fascinating to me is that there are those who still, despite all that evidence, don't believe that there is such a thing as a wealth builder's mentality. And that's just simply not true, because the mathematics basically say that if you were to simply take a regular person and take the amount of money that we spend on fast food alone, the average American spends $3,000 a month on fast food. If a person were to invest $3,000 a month over the last, let's say they did it over the last 30 years, that person would have hundreds of thousands of dollars in liquid assets and wealth to pass on to their children. And then, you know, let's not even consider if they own a home, you know, and or maybe start a business and or get, you know, good life insurance. It's not easy for me to tell you how you can be a millionaire in a month or in 6 months or in a year, right? Other than saying, like, I hope you win the lottery. It's very easy for me to tell you how your children can be millionaires or your grandchildren can be millionaires. That's an easy equation. The reason that's an easy equation is because your children and grandchildren have the value of time. You only have so much time, right? Maybe you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old. Either way, your clock is ticking. You got so much time to kind of do certain things. And what I want to encourage you to do is to not think of it as, okay, I have this time to do something for me. I really kind of want you to be okay with picking up a little bit of what Steve was talking about when he was talking about his descendants. The rapper T.I. was talking about that, and when he made that diss song on Floyd Mayweather about the whole Gucci thing, and he was talking about his children and grandchildren and stuff like that. Like, that's an important part of the thinking of wealthy people. You have to be able to think about the children and grandchildren in order for them to be able to win this game. The wealth game is not just a team sport; it is also a relay race. And in a relay race, you can't win that by yourself. Somebody has to hand you the baton. Let's see here. By the way, I don't know if you guys know, if you guys want to check out any of the books that we have or any of the tools we have really cool flashcards we invented for kids. Financialflashcards.com is where you can get our wealth building flashcards for children. That's financialflashcards.com. Or you can also check out our new workbook series we created for children. It took us 2.5 years to put that together. We did it specifically for Black children, nobody else, because there are Black faces all through it and stuff. So, when white people see that, they don't want to be any part of it. So it's not something you're going to see in the school system. But what I did was I got a bunch of experts and I said, let's create something specifically for our kids. And so if you want to check that out, go to financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. What do you think about Floyd Mayweather? I think that Floyd Mayweather is a person that I think that he infuriates me so much that I actually feel sorry for him. Floyd Mayweather is kind of a guy who's incarcerated by his own ignorance, but he's got this deadly combination of ignorance and arrogance at the same time. See, it's one thing if you're ignorant and you're humble about it. You're like, well, look, I don't know nothing about it. Like if you ask me, Boyce, what do you know about how to fix a car? I'd be like, look, I'm ignorant. I don't know nothing. Well, I mean, that means at that point I'm saying to you, look, I'm willing to learn. Like, tell me, like, where's the radiator? Where's the carburetor, right? But imagine if I knew nothing about how to fix a car, but yet I'm very arrogant about it. And I'm like, well, I can fix a car. I mean, I'm the best mechanic up in here. I mean, I know what I'm doing. And you say, well, hey, boys, let me show you around the hood. Lift the hood and show you, around the engine. And I say, don't show me around the engine. I don't need to know nothing about no engine, man. I know everything. I know how to fix a car, man. So don't even, but right, like that's kind of what you get with Floyd Mayweather, because money creates like a kind of cockiness in people. And so Floyd's the epitome of that. He's very, very cocky, which is hiding deep insecurities. And his insecurities are related to, one, the fact that he can't read. So I don't think he sees himself as a very intellectual kind of person. But that's okay, because, that's not what's popular now anyway in the Black community. Ignorance is what's popular. Ignorance is what people love, because, ignorance, unfortunately, the downside is that ignorance kills. It keeps us where we are. It keeps us in the dumps. It keeps us oppressed. But for some people, that's okay, because they define Blackness to mean that you're supposed to be oppressed. They don't see Blackness as an empowering thing. They see Blackness as a disability. So Floyd Mayweather is always going to be more popular than a person like me, because we're a community that has been kept in the dark on a lot of things, over time. And some of us don't want to come out of the dark. Like, we enjoy the dark, right? So I think that's what I see with Floyd. I feel bad for him, but I also feel bad for the world, because Floyd is a huge missed opportunity. I would love to see Floyd. I just wish, I wish I could, like literally like go inside his brain and take over his body and his bank account for about 3 days. Because, in that amount of time, I could probably put together a plan to build, 5,000 schools for Black kids all across the country. I could fund 10,000 businesses, with the money that he gives to Gucci and all these white people. And I think that's the sad part, is that money is power. And it's very sad in our society. This is an artifact of racism. The power for Black folks tends to be given to the people who use it in the most destructive way. Like the Black people that are put on television and that are marketed to the world are not our most intelligent people. They're not our most righteous activists. They're not the Marcus Garvey, minded sorts of people. They are, rappers like Future, who mass market drug addiction and violence and death and financial irresponsibility and sexual irresponsibility amongst the Black community, right? And or Floyd Mayweather, same thing. So I think that with Mayweather, it's a mix between frustration and pity, and I think that to that extent, just going in that direction, it's not all doom and gloom, though. I mean, you see some really intelligent guys over in the NBA kind of really doing some things. I think some of these NFL players, they're really doing their best to try to understand the scope of what we're seeking to do as a community. I think that there would be a great opportunity if, say, LeBron and 2 or 3 other high caliber athletes and entertainers got together and set some really big, gigantic, audacious objective. Like, just literally said, our goal is to build, 1,000 schools in urban communities throughout the United States. Like, we want to mass produce Black excellence on a very broad scale, and it wouldn't cost them a penny. All they'd have to do is lend their names to the initiative, right? And so if any of these guys are listening, look, hit me up. I'll be glad to lead it. Like, y'all just sit there and smile, and then we can go get people to donate money or whatever. But basically, if you imagine this, right? LeBron was really doing something very special by building that great school in Ohio, and I thought that was awesome. but I didn't say a whole lot. I didn't say much other than way to go. Like, I love LeBron because I think that LeBron just uses his voice in such a great way. But there's a part of me that was saying, gosh, man, I really think that we can do a little bit more. Like, I really think that, that if we understand the nature of the issue and get away from old lines of thinking, we can actually solve this problem in a more effective way. The problem that you have when it comes to Black education, especially, is not that, you need one really great school. I don't care if Umar builds it or LeBron or somebody else. One school cannot educate 40 million people, right? It can't, right? You need 5,000 schools. You need thousands of schools all across the country. And the point is, the way you win the economic game is partly through mass production. You don't sort of strengthen an entire community with one really smart Black person or one really amazing Black leader. You strengthen the Black community by mass producing 500,000 Black boys who are armed and dangerous when it comes to their understanding of economic systems and investing and wealth building and how to start businesses and how to work together, how to do business deals. You need armies. You need armies, right? So if I was sitting there and I was talking to LeBron, I don't know LeBron. I know people that know him, but I've never met the guy, and I don't have nothing against him at all. But if I was talking to him and he was really like, okay, so how do we really make this thing go? I would say we need an army, man. Like where's our army? And so one basic, very simple way we can build an army, and actually me talking to you is really me appealing to you to be part of my army. I can't build an army like LeBron, but I can build the Dr. Boyce Watkins army. And I really want you to enlist your children in this army. And to be in this army is very easy. All you gotta do is make sure that your children spend 50 to 100 hours at least total time. That's not very much time, right? There's 168 hours in a week. So spend 50 to 100 hours of time learning how to start a business, how to invest in the stock market, and how to buy real estate. If they know those three basic things, and we have, say, 200,000 or 300,000 kids that can do that, then they're going to be ahead of white people. They're not going to be playing the equality game. That's the game they want you to play. They want you to keep playing the equality game because they know that the best you're ever going to do is catch up. You'll never take the lead playing the equality game. Like you can never win a game when your goal is to try to, your goal is to try to tie your opponent. Like you can't win if you're only playing defense and if you're only trying to tie. You only win if you're aggressive and you're trying to take the lead, okay? So I don't want to shoot layups. I want to shoot three-pointers. I want to take half-court shots. I want to really ramp up the offense. I believe we've got the tools to do it. I don't think that it's going to require any, massive reparations bill to do this. If they bring it along, if they offer it, then I think that's great, good, then that, hooray, right? But even if they don't deliver reparations, I think we have the ability to give reparations to ourselves. I believe we have the ability to do something with what we've got, with that 1.2 trillion that we give away to white people every year. That is a massive amount that's like a nuclear bomb level amount of economic power right there. That 1.2 trillion, if adequately applied, can literally lead to an explosive economic revolution unlike anything that we've ever seen. All right, so let me see here. Nita says, I often feel like when I start my business that I will need a beard, a white person that pretends to be the owner. I've heard people that do that. I'm not even gonna say it's a bad idea. I mean, if you're trying to get white people to buy from you, we know that their bias is real. But I mean, it's true with anybody. I mean, Asians, same way. If I'm trying to sell a product in China, I would get a Chinese front person because Chinese only buy from other Chinese people. Black people are kind of the only ones where you could just look like anything and be anybody, and they'll just buy from you as if you were a cousin. Like we're literally the only ones who do that. Like other groups, Hispanics, Irish, like a lot of those people, they don't really just buy from any and everybody. They'll buy a little bit, but they're not really going to do business with you that deep if they don't know you and they don't feel like you're part of their community. That's kind of like economic thinking 101 for a lot of families. Dr. Boyce, do you think we'll eventually buy up a couple of states and administer them the same as the Mormons run Utah? Maybe we can start with the state of Georgia. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't see anything happening that says that could occur. I've seen people talk about doing things in Africa, but I don't really know if we could buy states in the United States. I do think we can have critical masses in certain areas. I think the Black economic revolution is well underway. If you look at We Buy Black, my brother Sharif Abdul Malik is doing a great job with that. You saw what Jay Morrison's doing with his real estate fund. You see these little pockets of possibility, and I think it's only going to grow. I think that you just got to be patient. I think it's just going to take time for these ideas to sink in, and then some people may never really act on it. Their children may be the ones who act on it, right? So that's what I'm doing. My goal is not to get everybody to think like me. My goal is to just say enough to you so that when your child gets to a certain age and they say, how do I go about making money? You'll say, oh, well, this guy named Boyce Watkins said that you should learn how to buy property and invest in the stock market. If that's what happens, then I've done my job. Paul, Dr. Boyce, oh, wait, you already asked that question. Let's see. Nakia says, no offense, but Monique has been on tons of national platforms discussing this. I would have taken the opportunities to launch tours, businesses, books, etc. Yeah, I think that's the big thing about Monique's problem is that Monique doesn't understand one fundamental rule about freedom. Freedom is kind of, it's not something that you're guaranteed in America. Freedom of speech is kind of a myth. Freedom of speech is like, it's like having, a good lawyer when you go to court. You got to be able to afford that. We have these BS laws that say, oh yeah, when you go to court, you're given the right to have adequate representation and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. You try that. You go put your life on the line with a public defender and see what happens, right? Well, so I think that with Monique, it's kind of like, I would probably say to her this. I would say, Monique, I think I totally get where you're coming from. I've been the big mouth Negro in the room myself, and I understand where you're coming from. And I used to be mad like Monique. I used to want to protest and boycott and fight the power and be like, oh, we need to stand up against these people and their oppression and blah, blah, blah. I used to do that. But then one day I thought about it, and I had to admit something to myself. I said, if I were them, I wouldn't want to hire me either. Like if I were them, I'd be trying to get rid of me too, because what I believe and what I want is in complete contradiction to what they want. And if I'm in this job, in this company that's owned by them, they made this institution to pursue their agenda, not my agenda, right? So it was the myth of equality and diversity and inclusion that led me to think that I could come in and completely want to shift the agenda and be heard as if I was the owner of the building, right? But you think about this, it makes no sense for you to think that you can go in somebody else's house and tell them what color to paint the walls and where to move the living room couch. So I would probably have told Monique, I'd probably say, girl, you're doing all that talking, you better not be trying to go work for massa, because you can't fight somebody and beg from them at the same time. You can't fight the hand that you need in order to feed you. A.G. Gaston used to say that. A.G. Gaston said that back during the civil rights movement. He said, we can't fight white folks and beg them for jobs at the same damn time. That don't even make no sense, right? So that's what I think with Monique. I think that Monique might have had the right idea, but the thing is, there's no such thing as a right or wrong idea. Who cares if I think her ideas are right or wrong? Who cares if we agree or disagree with her? This is a power game. This ain't about a right or wrong game. There is no such thing as right and wrong half the damn time. The Democrats believe this, Republicans believe that. Some people believe this, some people believe that. It's power. Do you have the ability to impose your will despite the opposition of others? In the book Powernomics, the first thing Dr. Claude Anderson does is he explains what power is. Can you pursue your agenda despite the opposition of others? So for many Black folks, the minute we get opposition, we feel our only option is to stop and whine and complain or to march and protest, right? But the people that I see that really pursue their agenda are the ones who fight back, who are able to fight back because they've got options and they've got resources and they've got a battle plan and they got a strategy. So I think that Monique, I'm not going to tell her she's wrong. I just think that she's fighting for something that might be above her pay grade. She's doing things that she could do if she owned her own production company. You know, things she could do if she made her own movies and knew how to distribute them on her own, right? She can't do these things as an employee. That's just kind of the way life works. When will your next conferences be held and when? All Black National Convention will be in September. That's allblacknationalconvention.com if you want to learn more. You should come. It's an amazing event. Also, we're going to do something in London, and that's going to be in the fall. So I'll let you guys know when London's going to happen. And we're going to do another 48-hour business school this summer. I'll announce all of that. So make sure if you haven't signed up at drboycewatkins.net, that's drboycewatkins.net, you can get a free e-copy of my book, and you'll be on the watch list in terms of people that I let, that I inform whenever something new is going to happen. Okay, so let's see here. Simple question: how do you not repeat the same mistake? As Monique, I don't know the nature of that question, so I'm gonna go ahead and move forward. Dr. B, how do you address people who say your platform about wealth building in the Black community is impossible unless we receive reparations? Danette, I don't have a problem with what people say. The only problem I have with that statement is the word impossible. I think it's insulting to even consider the idea that it's impossible for us to do the same things that white people have done on many occasions. I think it feeds into white supremacist thinking. If you think that only white people can be white supremacists, then you're wrong. A lot of Black people are white supremacists. And so there are lots of things that white people have done over and over again, Asian people have done, Hispanic people have done, that we don't believe Black people can do. I've never been a person who said we don't deserve reparations. If you guys come into the Black Business School, one of our heavy contributors is Dr. Claude Anderson, the author of Powernomics, and he has consistently stated that we are owed reparations. He explains exactly why. He supports any movement toward reparations, and he's actually been filing lawsuits to fight for reparations, which you can actually donate to those lawsuits. If you go to harvestinstitute.org, that's harvestinstitute.org, you can actually donate to that, and I hope you will, because he's been paying this on his own, and it's very expensive. So I'm a believer that we deserve the reparations. There's no question about it. So I don't even understand why there should even be a debate. Anybody who disagrees with me on this, I think my question I would ask them, because I've actually reached out to some of them and said, why don't you just call me? Why don't we just talk about it so we can realize that we're actually on the same side? We're actually saying the same thing. We actually agree with each other. But again, because we have this whole inability as a community to just talk it out, there are people that just won't talk. They're like, no, I don't want to debate with you because you're a son of a bitch. And I'm like, but I don't think you're a son of a bitch. I want to solve the problem. Like, I'm not worried about who's getting the credit or who's seen as the good person or the bad person or the big shot or what. I just want to solve the problem. And I think that we can do better working together. We can serve the community better when we work together than if we're fighting. And I've asked them, I said, what makes you think, at what point have I ever told you that I don't support the concept of reparations? I've done probably about 15,000 videos over the last decade. And at what point have I ever stated in a video or in an article that I don't support or believe Black people deserve reparations? I have never said that. All I have said is that I don't trust that white people are going to do it anytime soon, because I've been watching their behavior. I analyze what they're doing on Capitol Hill, where they can't even, they're fighting over a $5 billion border wall like it's a life or death situation. I don't really know how they're going to find the political will to come up with $1 trillion, $2 trillion reparations package for Black people, especially when you got Black politicians that don't even want to talk about Black people, right? So I'm not saying that I don't believe in it and that I wouldn't love to see it. I'm just saying we got to have a plan B. And my plan B, which is Plan Black, says while white people are fighting, we need to be building. So building means that, you take what you got and you work with what you got. My grandmama taught me this before she died, rest her soul. My grandmama never made more than $20,000 a year, $22,000 a year. But my grandmother always had perfect credit. She had her car paid off, house paid off, credit card balances paid down to zero, left a good life insurance package, and had all of her arrangements set down to the color of the dress she wanted to be buried in when she died. She said, I want to be buried in a cardinal red dress because my basketball team is the Louisville Cardinals. And that's what we buried her in. That to me was somebody that I saw as the most economically empowered person that I knew, and she was nowhere near rich. right? And now here's the thing. What I do is I take what my grandmother gave me and I add to that. And I say, well, what if instead of just saving her money and not spending it up, what if grandma had invested a little something in the stock market consistently over the last 20, 30 years? I did the analysis, looked at the data, I said, wow, she would have had maybe an extra $300,000 or $400,000 in wealth by the time she died. Or what if grandma had taken a couple of financial literacy classes and learned a little bit about how to start a business or how to invest in somebody's business? What if she had gotten into real estate a little bit more and even though she owned her own home, what if she went ahead and took her extra money and bought a second home, right? Then that home value, she bought the home in 1975, the house will probably be worth 4 times more than that by now, right? So this is how wealth grows, right? This is how wealth is built. So what I'm trying to say, very clearly, is not that reparations can't be part of the equation, but I'm saying that mindset is incredibly important when it comes to money, because a person who does not have the right mindset is somebody that as soon as you give them money, they're going to find a way to lose it. As soon as you give them money, they're going to find a way to lose it. If you want to see an example of that, go watch that BET show, Blew a Bag. And all that show's about is this long stream of Black people who have had millions of dollars handed to them, who got a reparations check early. They got their check before the rest of us did, and they gave it right back to white people. If you want to see an example of a bad financial mentality, look at Floyd Mayweather. Watch this man and how eager he is to give all of his grandchildren's billions away. And I say billions because every time he gives away $10 million, that is an amount of money that could grow to several $100 million if it were planted and invested right now. Like literally, if Floyd Mayweather took 10 million and said, I'm gonna put it in this trust for my grandkids and they can't touch the money for 50 years, that 10 million can easily grow into several $100 million. So when he throws away $1, he ain't throwing away $1, he's throwing away about $100 every time he throws away one. I was watching this really good Netflix movie that you guys may want to check out. It's called The Founder. The Founder is about Ray Kroc and the guys who created McDonald's. And in The Founder, the point where I'm at in the film right now, Ray Kroc is about to buy McDonald's, the company, from the McDonald's brothers. And Ray Kroc was a really rough businessman. He was I would say he was almost, the movie portrayed him almost as if he was unethical, but that's beside the point. But when he got to the point where he wanted to buy the McDonald's corporation from the McDonald's brothers, he gave them a check, and it was a blank check. And I don't know if they're gonna, I assume that they're gonna, put an amount in there and he's gonna buy it. I don't know, I haven't seen the rest yet, but whatever amount of money that they probably put on that check in 1958 is probably not even 0.1% of what McDonald's is worth right now. So they could, let's say they look at it and they say, okay, we're gonna milk this guy. We're gonna get $3 million out of him, right? Which would have been a ton of money in 1958. I'm sure $3 million was probably like 20, 30 million, in today's dollars, right? Even that amount would be nothing compared to what it's worth later on down the line. So when Floyd Mayweather takes his money in his pocket and he goes and he drops $100,000 at the strip club, put it in a stripper thong, he's not throwing away 100,000. He's throwing away millions, because he's not just killing the money that's in his pocket. He's killing everything that money could have become. He's killing the millions of dollars that money would have eventually been worth if it had been invested and nurtured properly. It's like killing a little baby that's a little girl. You're not just killing the little girl. You're killing her reproductive system. You're killing her children, her grandchildren, and her great grandchildren. So so you got to be able to think on that level to see wealth. A lot of us aren't trained to think that way. We're trained to think so much in the moment. I think we end up missing the bigger picture that way. Dr. Boyce says, a Black business school is suitable for teenagers and very young adults. Yes, Kenya, it is perfect for young adults. In fact, the education of children was one of our top priorities. We have a deal actually with the Nation of Islam's excellent school, the Muhammad University of Islam, where all their kids are in our programs. We have a program called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow, which basically focuses on making sure your children are well versed in the 3 pillars of wealth. 3 pillars of wealth are stock and bond investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. And so anyway, if you go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com, the programs, we've spent a lot of time putting it together. It's got animated videos, self-study exams, so you can make sure your child knows the material. Also, they can get a degree from the Black Business School when they're done, so they can get a little certificate, which is very important for their self-esteem. You want your child to identify themselves as a wealth builder at an early age. You see, I used to think that I was going to be a professional football player because all I saw on TV that, in terms of people that look like me were athletes. So I identified myself at the age of 9 or 10 as an athlete, which changed how I behaved in every context. It changed how hard I studied because I wasn't a student. I'm an athlete, right? I'm not the smart kid. I'm the dumb jock, right? Now of course that was stupid because I'm not anywhere near good enough to be a professional athlete, but that's how I identify myself at a very early age. And so what I encourage you to do, what I think is a game winner for any family that wants your children to win. I'm not talking about the whole Black community. They can come along when they come along. I'm talking about you and your family. All you got to do is make sure your kids identify themselves as economic champions at an early age. And so one of the things the program does is it helps your child to just identify themselves as a little investor or as a little business person. And I've gotten tons and tons of emails from moms, especially, who are saying that they saw these really interesting transformations in their kids, like mostly with boys. Like I'll hear some mom that'll say, yeah, my 13-year-old son, he wouldn't pay attention. He was all into whatever. He wasn't paying attention to school and blah, blah, blah. And now all he talks about is investing. And I'm like, well, yeah, that doesn't surprise me because most boys want money. That's why they want to be professional athletes, because they think the athletes have all the money. But I don't want to train my child to be a professional athlete. I'd like for my child to be a professional owner, because I want my child to own the athletes, right? So ultimately, because everybody can't be 6'9", 240 pounds, but everybody can be in a position where you can own an asset and make a business deal. And the other thing too is that when I put together the program, which I based on all the years I taught, college students, and I just broke it down to where kids could understand it, is I thought about it. I said, if you had a kid that was 9 or 10 who learned these concepts, they will be ahead of 98% of all adults. Because most of the things that we teach our kids are things that most adults don't understand. Most adults don't really understand the fundamentals of real estate and mortgages and how appraisals work and tax liens or stock market volatility or whatever, risk return trade-offs or whatever it is, right? So I said if kids learn this early, they would be not caught up with white kids, they'd actually be ahead of the white kids. So what happens is then your child grows up and they go into the economic system, right? And they're doing what everybody else is doing. They're trying to figure out how to get ahead, how to make some money. Well, a kid that's not trained is going to go out and if they're not trying to break the law, they're going to go and maybe get a job, right? Then they're going to get a job. They're going to be miserable. They're going to be mad because they're not making enough money, even though media is teaching them, oh, I want Gucci, I want Jordans, I want this, I want that. You can't afford any of that. So you're kind of caught in the culture. Then you have some kids that go out and just do dumb stuff to get money. That's how Black people get shot over money and end up, going to prison trying to get money. I'm sure if you did a survey and you surveyed most of the Black men in prison and said, did you get locked up in a crime that related to getting money? I'm sure a lot of them would say yes, right? And then some of them, would do other things like I'm really trying to be a good rapper so that one day I can get a record deal so I can get money. And what it is that a lot of our young people don't know how to get money, so they end up doing things in the wrong way because they don't really know where the money is or how to obtain it because nobody ever talked to them about it, right? And so they end up sort of being lost in this economic system. They're kind of like what I would be if I was trying to fix my car. If I'm trying to fix the engine in my car, I don't know where anything is. I don't know what a carburetor is. I don't know what a I can tell just in the where the muffler is supposed to be versus the the tail light, right? And so I'm going to do it all wrong and I'm going to be very confused and I will be actually a slave to or how's it vulnerable to somebody who knows how to do what I can't do. I'd have to pay them to do it for me, right? So if a car mechanic wants to rip me off, all he's got to do is say, oh, well, the problem that you have is going to cost you $700 to fix. And it may be literally something that costs him $5 to fix, right? But because I don't know any better, I'm going to get exploited. And that's what happens in the economic system. You see, we don't talk about this because there's no conversation of this in the Black public dialogue. A lot of us want to paint this idea that people who have more money or who are more successful, they got there because they lied, they stole, or they're just terrible people. That's because you're too connected to the liberals and the Democratic Party, and that's their constant narrative. Rich people are bad, 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 bad. They're evil, 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 evil. And it's fine. Some of them are evil, but some of them are just regular people like you. And some of them aren't necessarily multi-billionaires. They just may be people that have a few $100,000 in the bank that they got through honest hard work. Some of you in this room are in this category. Some of you, have, you own the $300,000 house. Maybe you got, $250,000 in your stock portfolio, and you didn't get it because you went out hustling anybody, or you were part of the 1% and had some evil plan to conquer the world. You did it because you did basic things. Like you invested your money when you had extra money. You didn't go spend it at McDonald's on a pair of shoes, right? You took a class on how to invest in the stock market, or maybe you learned how to start a little business, and now you're working as a carpenter, or you got a carpentry business and you're making, $200,000-300,000 a year, doing carpentry, right? Like it's basic stuff like that. Like, so ultimately, I think that in general with our kids, if you train them early and you have the right conversation with them, you can help them enter the economic game in a way where they are less susceptible to the kind of exploitation or the victimization that comes with not being prepared. And that's the key idea. You really don't want an adult child who is not prepared for economic competition and racism. That's why so many of our kids out here are lost. That's why so many young people are struggling. They got hit upside the head. They got body slammed, because you were always sort of treated like this handicapped kid that could never accomplish much of anything. So nobody ever tries to push you. Almost like my cousin. I had a cousin who had a learning disability. And because he had a learning disability, that was their excuse for not teaching him how to read. Because they were like, well, why should we stress him out by making him learn how to read? Because he's got a learning disability, so he can't read very well. So what do you think happened? He never learned how to read. Now he's 33 years old and he still can't read, right? So, that's my 2 cents on it. I think preparing your kids, whatever method you choose is best. I think that it's more fun for a young Black boy, especially, to be really, really good at making business deals and creating his own jobs than it is for him to just be good at sports. What it also allows you to do is if you go out and you are looking for an opportunity and you don't find the opportunity you're looking for, you always feel like you have a Swiss Army knife of options you can lean on in case you don't find the boss that makes you happy. Okay, so that's it. So I think kids should find their own freedom. Okay, so by the way, okay, so somebody was asking about my stock market class. Yeah, the stock market program, if you want to learn to invest in the stock market, that's my expertise. That's what I wrote my dissertation on. It's a great program. You can go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. And I'm going to rapid fire through about 5 more questions, and we're going to bounce out of here. Danique says, can you give me any information about financial education curriculum available for homeschool students? Yeah, if you go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com, that's our digital curriculum. And what we've had a lot of homeschool parents who will use the digital, but they can supplement it with the workbooks. And the workbooks are at financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. We cover every grade band, and they cover 3 key areas of investing, stock market, and I believe the last one is real estate. And also you can go to financialflashcards.com. Financialflashcards.com is where the flashcards are. And that's sort of, I've seen people sort of have that as kind of like their package of their little in-house business school, the digital, the workbooks, and the flashcards. Let's see. Nakia says, you can't go to work and tell your boss to kiss your ass and then expect not to have consequences. Yeah, I don't know who told us that's okay. You can't do that. I mean, you can't, then go complain and whine because you got fired because you told your boss to kiss your ass. I mean, what would you do if you're the boss and somebody tells you to kiss your ass or kiss their ass? I mean, wouldn't you want them out of your company too? Alicia Howard, why don't they have enough money to buy their freedom? Is it they lack the knowledge or how Hollywood is built? I don't think they lack the knowledge per se. I think that they may lack some of the knowledge, but they know how to reach out to smart people. I think it's a matter of lacking the vision and the patience. It's almost like when I was talking to you about LeBron and his really extraordinary vision to build that beautiful school that he's built. I could easily see somebody else with a different vision and saying, Why don't we mass produce and build 1,000 schools? Why don't we use LeBron's, powerful name and raise, $2-3 billion or whatever the number is that we need, or enough to get started, and just literally like flip the whole education game on its head. Really, how big you think plays a big role in how big your outcomes actually are. The reason I'm talking to, probably, I guess by the time this video is done, maybe it'll be seen by 50,000 people. The reason I'm talking to 50,000 people online and not 50 people in a classroom is because my goal was to build a bigger vision. I said, well, if I'm teaching all this great stuff to these white kids at Syracuse, I would really rather be teaching this to Black people all around the world. So it's really about where you set the goal at the end of the day. Paul says, I'm 90% finished with the Black Stock Market program. Good for you. Make sure you get your certificate. When at this point, when you're 90% through, you should be able to get a certificate. So make sure you print out your certificate, put it on your wall. I've heard you mention that if we complete one of your programs, we can be rolled over to another program free of charge. Yes. Paul, email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com, and just tell them I said to give you the hookup. And that means, to give you another program for free. So for whatever you're paying to be part of the Black Stock Market program, you can stay there and keep taking advantage of the new material that I put in there, but you can add another class in there. I'm very proud of you. Good job. Good for you. Let's see. How do you encourage adult children who don't have any ambition or drive to do better? I don't know if you can encourage them or make them do better. I think that you can at least not enable them. A lot of us have lazy kids, and they're lazy because we enable them or we protect them from their own bad decisions. And I know it may mortify you to imagine what's going to happen to little Pookie if you don't pay his rent and let him sit on your couch and smoke weed and play Xbox all day in his drawers. But there is a point where you kind of have to say, I'm not enabling this anymore. And then at that point, you got to kind of let them have their own consequences. What about Black girls, though? I don't know what about Black girls. I mean, Black girls, same thing. I mean, some of us enable our girls, and then they become deadbeats. So it happens across the board. John says, how do we go about healing, unifying, and strategizing on a common plan? We need to understand how to govern our communities as well as economic aspects. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, John. All I can say is that my personal goal, I had a leadership coach because I saw that people were listening to what I had to say, and I wanted to really use that influence responsibly. So one of the things I decided to do was I said, well, at the very least, I can just, try to commit myself in 2019 to not argue or fight with other Black people. And so that means, if I see somebody say something mean on the internet or something that's just not true, I am going to just choose not to participate in any anger or any energy I feel. I'll just apply that energy toward solutions and not toward these ridiculous little fights online. Because I don't think we can sit here and expect anything productive to happen when what we consider to be Black leadership is pretty much consistent of a bunch of people with little YouTube channels who are just, saying horrible things about each other to get more views. I think that we need unified, complete solutions, and we need to work together to accomplish those goals. So let's see. LaDanya says, what are some books that you feel we should read about wealth or establishing wealth? The first book I would have any Black child read is Powernomics. They should read that book before any other book. Claude Anderson, all of his books, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, those are all excellent books. He's a great historian and a great economist, so he's you get two birds with one stone. Some other good books in blackmoney103.com, which is our entrepreneurship program. We have a reading list. It's blackmoney103.com. You can feel free to go check it out. In that program, I know one of the books that we have people read is a book called Traction, which teaches people how to run organizations. And so Traction is a good book that I really liked. Let me think, what's another? I think some of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books are pretty good. I know Amos Wilson wrote a great book, The Blueprint for Black Power, if I'm not mistaken. It's a thick book. It's expensive and it's pretty thick, but I think it's just a good kind of Bible to kind of have around, I think that also in terms of just learning the fundamentals of starting a business, you may want to also, subscribe to some podcasts or just consume information on a daily basis. It's going to make you smarter. Can we start the conversation on what part of the country we want to target to our own You know, Hassan, I don't know. I'm not opposed to that. You know, of us targeting a part of the country. I don't know. Let me think on that a little bit, because that's a lot to process. I can't solve all the world's problems, but if you have a solution and you're working on something, feel free to send it over to manager@boycewatkins.com, and I'll be happy to share it with other people, because I don't pretend to know all the solutions. I just know the ones that I know. Last question. Danette says, Dr. B, just wanted you to know that when the Black Panther movie was out, you suggested that we also buy Disney stock. Within a year so far, I have made $700, even though the stock market has been up and down. Good for you, Danette. Wow. All right. I think that is awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, the stock market is kind of like shooting fish in a barrel right now. I mean, the last 20 years, it's crazy to say this, but the last 20 years, the stock market has been one of the easiest places to make money in America. Like literally, if you were a person who became addicted to buying stock in like 1998 or 2005 or something like that, there ain't no way you wouldn't have no money. Like if people literally were just like buying extra shares of stock the same way we spend money on, you know, shoes or hair, getting our hair done every week. Not my hair, I ain't got no hair, but you know, or going out to eat at fast food restaurants or whatever. Like literally just the little money we throw around for fast food. A person literally just doing that to the tune of, you know, a couple $100s a month, $200, $300, $400 a month or whatever, would have a ton of money right now. It is not hard to make money in the stock market. You could be blind, deaf, dumb, know nothing about investing, literally picking stocks randomly, and you would have far more money than somebody who did not invest. So when people ask me, what's the biggest mistake that you can make in investing? The biggest mistake you can make in investing is to not invest at all. Some of you heard me say this, but that's 100% true. So if you're not investing, just dive in. Just download Acorns, Stash, or Robinhood, one of those three apps, and just start diving in. You know, it ain't complicated like they make it out to be. And anybody who gets mad at me when I make it simple like that, I don't get offended when they get upset because I say explain it in such a simplified way. I don't get upset because I spent years doing nothing but studying the stock market, analyzing gigabytes, tons of gigabytes of data going all the way back to 1908. You know, I mean, seriously, I obsessed over this while I was working on my dissertation and before that. So I'm just here to tell you, like, it's the easiest way in America to make money. The reason, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna go. The number one reason that they found when they did the study, the number one reason for the gap between the rich and the poor, or the rich and the middle class, was stock market investing. The biggest reason for the gap between the poor and middle class, if I'm not mistaken, was home ownership. So when you own a home, when you choose to aim for home ownership as opposed to just renting your whole life, that's when you go from poor to middle class, right? But when you choose to also invest in the stock market, that's what gives you the best chance to go from middle class to rich. And there are millions of people who have made that jump, made that transformation. So anybody who ever says that being born poor means you're just supposed to die that way, that's somebody who probably doesn't understand wealth very well. You know, that's like somebody who is trying to give you heart surgery and they never went to medical school. You don't get healthcare advice from people who are not doctors. You should listen to doctors. That's just my 2 cents. So I'm about to go. The stock market class, if you want to get started on it, if you haven't started yet, it's theblackstockmarketprogram.com, THE, theblackstockmarketprogram.com. If you want to look into the stuff for your kids, our kids program is blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Now I'm going to go and that awesome black woman, she just made me a great salad, and I'm going to go eat this salad and save my voice because I'm a little bit tired. But I hope that this conversation has helped you and helped your family. I also hope that you will share this conversation with your family. This is my army. You guys are all I got, seriously, in terms of like what we're trying to do here. And I get choked up when I think about it because I believe in this, you know, and you guys are really all I got. Like when I'm talking to you, I'm not just trying to talk to you and convince you. I'm trying to convince you to participate and share and carry these conversations elsewhere. You know, talk to people about this. You know, be a little bit rude about it. You know, not to the point where you're uppity, but you know, give people spaces about it. Like talk about it on social media. Like challenge our community to grow. You know, I don't want to see more videos of us dancing and playing basketball. Like, who cares? You know, like show me some examples of our children building powerful businesses and and working together as a group to form major corporations and really flipping this game on its head. You know, like let's play the real power game. And I really need you all to help me with this, you know, seriously. So I'm not some big shot sitting up here on the throne saying, oh, listen to me, I'm the great Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm literally a fellow soldier begging the other soldiers in the battle to pick up a goddamn stick. I'm just asking you, pick up a weapon, man. Seriously, I need your help because I do believe we can win this war because I can't win this by myself. You know, so that's it. I'm about to go, guys. Let me hang up before I start getting emotional because I'm literally feeling, I don't know where it's coming from, but I got to go. So you guys have a good day, and thank you for listening. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.